Does that hit it, AJ? Did I hit all your
Yes, it sounds
questions?
like you're start to finish. I mean, I can just bring you LOI and a PSA, and you like all the way through, all the way through.
And not even the PSA. I'm glad you brought that up. You don't need that yet. You start with the LOI because if you start with the PSA, you might have to redo it.
Hmm.
Our team will actually even help you to make sure that the PSA is going to be the way it needs to be so that everything can work, like clockwork. Hey, welcome in. We're glad you're here tonight on our Buying Zero Down Zoom. This Zoom is for everybody. We have had people on our Wednesday night Zooms who are brand new first time, don't even understand what a seller carryback is, which is fine. We have people who have already closed deals using seller carryback and buying for zero down, and we have everybody in between. So um, last week I kind of went over an overview, and tonight we're going to talk about some of the challenges that you might face when you're trying to purchase a property for zero down, and some of the solutions that we have for those challenges. So I'm going to go through a few of those tonight, and then we'll probably do part two next week because we found this quite a bit of information. We don't want to overload you too much. And that way we have time as well to answer some questions and maybe even look at some deals. Plus, we have shared in the past about our um, stack method calculator, which helps you to see if a purchase could be purchased for zero down, if it would work out for that. But also, there's a couple other tools that are attached to that. One is that we've showed off the last couple of weeks is the LOI generator, which is a super great tool to simply create an LOI when you're ready to pull the trigger and get a seller to sign off on the terms you've discussed. But the other thing that we haven't shown yet is there's also a little more of an advanced underwriting or a cash flow calculator. So we're going to look at that tonight as well. So there's all these tools that are built into that calculator. So we're going to show you that, and you can take advantage of using those. All right. So welcome in, Laura, Katrina, Frank. You guys just joining in. Appreciate you guys being here. We're going to jump in with a little bit of information. I'm going to just, before I do that though, does anybody have any burning questions right out of the gate that they want to ask? If not, then we'll jump in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let me do this first. All right. Got to get, oh, there we go. Now I can move stuff around. Okay. Share this. Here we go. Go. No, I need to get this moved over. Ah, here we go. There we go. Now we're cooking. All right. Hopefully you guys can all see my screen now here. Stack method, challenges and solutions, a guide to some of the problems and solutions you may encounter in doing seller carryback deals. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in on this. So one of the first issues that I think a lot of our borrowers run into is just bad underwriting. It's very important that you understand all the numbers and that you do your underwriting for your deal. We can look at whether or not the numbers work in terms of buying it with the seller carryback, but we don't necessarily have the experience in all the different asset classes to underwrite all the details that you need to look at. So we just encourage you, if you already are familiar with your asset class that you're looking to purchase, whether that's single family home, multifamily, whatever it might be, that's great. But if you don't have that experience, find someone who has lots of experience and have them look at your underwriting, have them do the underwriting with you, maybe even partner or JV with them, because you can learn so much from people who have already been there, done that, rather than going through a lot of the challenges yourself. So based on actual experience of our team doing over 100 of these seller carryback deals, um, we're going to look at some numbers here. The price, let's say the price of the property that you've agreed upon with the seller is 500K, and you're going to get a a loan, a DSCR loan, let's say for 400K, then you think, okay, I just need $100 in seller carryback. But that's not really the case because we want to be able to cover the closing costs and the fees and all of the things as well so that you truly can buy a property for zero down and then maybe even put some money in your pocket. In most cases, put money in your pocket. So what we need to do is more of instead of let's see here, instead of 100K seller carryback, we probably need to do a 200K seller carryback because then that covers the down payment, the assignment fees, the agent fees, the title, the transaction fee. We want to have enough room on there to be able to cover all those expenses. And you're going to be paying off two loans. The reason we call it a stack method is because you have two loans. You have a DSCR or some other kind of investor loan, and then you have the terms of the note that you have put together with the seller, and that's a second payment that you need to make. So let's say you've got $4,000 a month on your DSCR loan and another $2,000 a month on the note that you need to pay off. Maybe your rent potential is only 5,000 a month. That's not going to work. You're going to lose money on that. So you have to look at all the numbers and figure everything in, calculate it all. Let's move on to the next line here. Another problem that or challenge that you might run into is sellers who don't understand what you're talking about. Maybe they have never heard of this before and they're concerned. The main thing that we have seen is that the upfront communication and clear communication with the seller is the key to these deals being successful. Sellers often don't understand the process. Clear communication is essential. You got to make sure that everything is spelled out up front, starting with an LOI, detailed LOI, but can be negotiated. So a lot of times we have borrowers who are so used to using a purchase and sale agreement, which eventually you will get to. But if you start with a PSA, there could be a problem because some people think, okay, I'm just going to get a purchase and sale agreement and I'll just throw an addendum in there that talks about the seller carryback. And that is not what we want to do. We want to keep those two transactions completely separate. The way our system works, the stack method system that we have is we do a regular close with a DSCR loan or whatever investor loan, and then our funds as the down payment, closing costs and fees. That's one close. The seller carryback note and the terms of that seller carryback are completely separate. We do that with our attorney on a second transaction. So we don't want any of that seller carryback language in the purchase and sale agreement because that muddies the waters and then we have to start over and do a new purchase and sale agreement. And we don't want to go back to our seller and ask them to sign all over again. So if we start with an LOI, that's the best way to go. Some things you want to include in that would be the amount, the repayment structure, the protection. These are things that the seller is going to want to know and be concerned about. Another thing that's not listed here but is important is to let the seller know, hey, I know a lot of people have been giving you lowball offers. They're saying, I can give you cash, we can close in 2 weeks. This is not that. Okay, this is not close in 2 weeks. This is, hey, we'll give you your asking price as long as you're willing to do a portion of your equity on the terms that we agree upon. But it is going to take like 6 to 8 weeks to get this done because there's a few more hoops we have to jump through to get the loan in place and to make sure that everything's going to work and we can negotiate the note and make sure it's going to work for everyone. So by letting people know up front, hey, this is going to take a little bit longer, but we're going to get you what you want out of this deal, usually no problem. All right. If you tell somebody it's going to take, uh, you know, 3 weeks and it takes four, they blow a gasket. But if you tell somebody it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks and it takes seven, they don't care because you told them that up front. So that's an important piece as well. Let's move on to the next one, which is sometimes sellers have attorneys that they're working with. Okay. They may have, hey, my attorney wants to look at this. I don't know how this works. I want to make sure somebody I trust can look this over and make sure it's legitimate. That could be a challenge for you. If an attorney gets involved, The attorney may advise against it because they don't understand the protections or they're concerned about the second position lien. Again, we're not trying to hide anything. We like to be transparent. We want our borrowers to be transparent with the sellers because we don't want it to come back later on that, oh, I didn't know about that. So we want people to know, hey, yes, you're going to be in second position, but there are some protections for you on that note, and talk through those things up front so that they understand those. If they do bring in an attorney, you got a couple options. Your first option would be to explain it to the attorney. If the attorney understands how it works and what the protections are, they're usually going to be fine with that. The second option is, you know what? I don't want to take on an attorney. I'm just going to walk away. There's plenty of deals out there. I'm just going to go find a different one. But negotiation is the key to closing these deals. And sometimes that involves talking to attorneys. You know what? I'm going to save this one for next week. Title companies can be an issue, and we can tackle that one next week. So that's plenty of information, and I'd love to hear what you guys, what questions you have or experience you have. Anybody? AJ's got a question. I love it right out of the gate. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, so you mentioned on your first slide to for the additional seller carry. However, seller is not bringing money to the table. Are you talking about it's an additional holdback from the proceeds that they get from the first transaction, from the first closing?
Yes. So what they're doing is this, okay? The DSCR loan is going to bring the actual money to escrow, right? And we are going to bring actual money to escrow, right? So all the money is there to close the first transaction. Now, let's say a seller owns a property free and clear. Let's make it super easy, okay? And let's say we're selling the property, we're buying the property for 500,000, like we said. The seller's willing to carry back 200. They would normally get the whole 500,000 at the first closing minus closing costs, right? So they're going to make 475 or whatever, right? But they're going to say, okay, instead of me taking the full 475, I'll take 275 and I'll take the other 200,000 on a note over time on terms. So what they do is when the title company's got all the money, right? The escrow has all the money. When they distribute the money, instead of sending the 475 over to the seller, they send 275 to the seller and they send 200,000 over to our attorney on the seller's instructions. We have the seller sign instructions to the title company that they want a portion of their equity sent over to our attorney. So that's where the magic happens because we put the money in up front, the down payment, and that with the DSCR provides all the money that's needed. Now, once that money goes to the attorney, he returns our down payment, closing costs, and fees back to us. And any extra money goes in the buyer's pocket. That's you. So there's actual money. You're right. The seller's not bringing anything to the table. What they're doing is they're transferring some of their equity proceeds from the first closing over to the attorney. Does that help, AJ? Perfect. Great question. Anybody else? Other questions?
And just a note in the side chat, AJ, you are an underwriter. Do you underwrite Morbies?
I do, yeah, I do underwrite more.
Okay. That's great for this Zoom. So we're glad you're here because we know that there are individuals on here that are looking at particular asset classes and would want to know, do those numbers work? What we do and we have done, we actually have a calculator even on our website, AJ, that it's pretty basic, right? It's not going to get into all the details, but it does allow for a borrower to know whether it's a go or not, right? And they can manipulate the loan to value and all the things that they need to manipulate in terms of the numbers to see whether it would work or not. And we'll be sharing that in just a little bit. But yeah, that's great to know, AJ. Thanks for coming in and being that contact person for others. If you don't mind putting maybe your number in the chat or the best way to get a hold of you, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, we're really glad you're here. And I didn't say this up front, but basically, there's different names for the same thing. A mortgage method is the same thing as a seller carryback is the same thing as a stack method. It's just different names for the exact same thing. And the fact that you have some experience with that, AJ, is great. I love that this, community that we're pulling together here, we got so many resources. We a few weeks ago, we had a friend of ours who was a DSCR lender come in and answer questions. And then, you know, we've had people who have actually closed these deals come in and talk about their experience. We have people who have a lot of experience in negotiation who have shared some things. So, you know, having you here as a resource, as an underwriter is amazing. We appreciate you coming in. Any other questions right now based on the information we've shared so far?
I was just going to make
So-
a quick comment and say
Yeah.
that myself and Christopher, who are wholesaling in Florida, we had a gentleman about a week ago who actually turned down a carryback because he did not want to be in second position.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And that's going to happen. There are definitely people who are not going to go for this because either they don't understand it or they don't like how they're positioned or they need more money up front. They're not willing to carry back enough to make it happen. And that's fine because this isn't for everybody. This is going to be a small percentage of people that this is going to work for. But the key is to find that motivated seller, somebody who is really motivated, who has enough equity and doesn't need all the money up front. If that's the case, then, you know, then you've got a deal. But right, this is a numbers game, just like anything else in real estate investing, right? Not every property is going to work out for the criteria that we're looking at, but they're out there. We know they are because they're closing every day. Our team is closing these every day. So that's great. Thanks for bringing that up, Robert. Appreciate that. All right. Anybody else?
Thank you, Robert. I was going to say too, the other part of this is that initial conversation. Some of our borrowers are struggling in terms of that, so that's something we're going to address is more in depth in 2 weeks. Is it 2 or 3 weeks? Anyway, we talked about it today. That we're going to address like what that conversation should sound like and be, and like what you need to be discussing with these sellers. So that there is a full understanding on their part of what they do need to know and also what they don't really need to know, right? You know, so you know, just knowing what that's going to look like, we're excited to share that too. One of our borrowers who's looking to buy a property in Texas, we were on a Zoom with him yesterday, and like since we do fund nationwide, right? We're working with him and another guy that's usually on here with us, who's in, I think he's New York. Anyways, he's East Coast as well, but you know, again, like how do I have that conversation? What do I say? How do I address this is really key to their understanding. And even if they're open to this type of acquisition strategy, right? As they look to sell their home. So that's another key component to that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to brag on my wife right now because she was doing wholesaling before she jumped in all in with me to do transactional funding that we provide. But she has a ton of experience talking direct to agent, direct to seller. She's even done door knocking, which is crazy. And so she knows this, and she's also been trained by several key people in the real estate world that have closed many, many deals. So she's got a lot of experience with, and she's going to share some of that with you guys. So next week, we're going to go over part 2 of the challenges and solutions. And then the week after that, Marcella is going to share some of her wisdom and some of the things she's learned from others in terms of how to approach it, negotiation skills, what you should say, what you shouldn't say. It's going to be great. So don't miss that one. That'll be 2 weeks. So that being said, any other questions? Okay, Elizabeth's got her hand up. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Hi team. Hi Marcela. Hi. My question is, did you go over the title companies? I think you mentioned that one of the classes was going to be about title companies and how to choose the correct one.
Yeah, great question. In terms of our challenges and solutions, that's next week. So next week we're going to start with talking about title companies, and we're also going to talk about those DSCR lenders because some work, some don't. So that'll be the topic for next week. We'll cover some of the challenges and solutions when it comes to title companies and lenders, and maybe a couple other things that'll pop up as we talk about that. So that's the plan for next week. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just actually had, you know, a deal who it was a double close, so it's not a Morby or we do double closes as well. But that deal, it was just like the title company, there was just a lot going on there. They just weren't understanding the process of a double close. And so whether it's a double close or whether it's a Morby, a title company can completely blow up your deal. Completely, just by lack of understanding what the strategy is and understanding like next steps, if that makes sense. Because our funds are always ready to go. We're ready to wire at any time. So it's never a holdup on the funds, just so you know. It's always a holdup on some other part. And I see Elizabeth shaking her head like, yeah, I get it. This has been my experience. So if you've actually been closing deals or have closed deals, you understand that that's a huge component of it is when you are a lender, like I know Elizabeth is also a lender, it's never about are the funds ready to go. It's always about what else is holding it up. Is it title, right? Is it the buyer? Is it the seller? What else is going on? So you always want to keep asking questions. Joshua, you have your hand up. We're happy to see you here. Go ahead and unmute.
Oh, I was just going to make one more statement about what Marcella just said. Then Josh will get your question here. And that is, the good news is on the deal that Marcella was talking about with double close, we were able to close it. And the reason why is in spite of the challenges the title company had and that the buyer had challenges as well with the notary. Our back end team that we have, dedicated TCs that work with us, our dedicated attorney that works with us, they handled it perfectly. They walked everybody through it. They made sure it got done. And so because we have such an experienced back end team, that deal closed and our other stacking of the deals that we've had have closed because of that back end team. All right, Joshua, take it away, man. What's your question?
Yeah, hi. Thank you guys for taking the time to also teaching us some things.
Yeah.
And so I'm still trying to work on closing my first deal. I've seen a few properties and maybe some of them might be in lines to maybe seller carryback finance or Morbies. I just don't know. But I've worked, so there's this house that I had contacted the seller with, or talked to the seller for a long time, and just kind of found out what situation they were in. So they're just trying to sell it because this is their second property. They just don't want it anymore. They're working with an agent, so an agent is on it. But so like that side of it, I don't know how, that's why I'm not sure how this one would kind of play out with an agent involved. I'm sure it wouldn't make it much more difficult.
That's fine as long as there's enough room in there to pay the agent's fees. And that's the other thing we found too, is when there's an agent involved, a lot of times the agents don't understand the strategy. And so you want to start off by letting them know, hey, this is a creative deal, but we are in no way trying to cut you out. We want to make sure you get your full commission. When you say those magic words, we want to make sure you get your full commission. Then they're much more open to hearing about what you're going to share about the strategy, right? Because that's their concern. Because they know a lot of times real estate investors are trying to, squeeze that bottom line and make it work for their numbers. But if there's enough meat on the bone, then we can pay their full commission and still be able to get the property for zero down and still be able to, as long as it cash flows, as long as the numbers work out for you, right? So that's not a deal breaker. That's actually very common that there would be a realtor or sometimes a wholesaler. Maybe a wholesaler brings the deal and they're going to want their assignment fee. That's also, we can work that in. We just add that in on the HUD, they get paid and everybody's good. Yeah, so the questions you need to ask or what you need to find out is how much do they owe, right? Here's the purchase price, here's how much they owe. So you can find the amount of equity that they have. You got those numbers, Joshua?
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of tell you everything that I have. So I mean, I basically have, so they owe left on it is like 66,000. They have about 60 to 65% equity in it. Which is probably around 200 or something. They're asking for 349, but she said that she's willing to go less because they had it listed at 365 or something like that to begin with. And she was like, we didn't want to do that, the agent wanted to. So, and then of course when I spoke with her, she was like, yeah, I mean, if you find someone to, because I don't know if I could take over this, but if I I guess like you said, maybe either wholesale it or bring somebody in to kind of like work with it. I mean, it doesn't even really need much. I don't think it's like minor rehab. Everything seems to be fine. She doesn't have any issues with like electrical. I think the roof is good and all of that. So it's like so yeah, so she has about 60 to 65% equity in it. She just wants money for her and her husband to have for like you know, hospital bills or stuff like that. And when I had spoke with her, maybe I didn't explain it to her very well, but I didn't really touch on it very much as far as if she would be open to something similar to this. But again, she was really adamant on wanting just to get her equity, like a good portion of it.
Mhm.
And she said that, and I don't know if people get this answer or not also, but she said that she's uh doesn't want to be like the lender. She doesn't want to take over that spot. So that's why I was kind of like, oh, so maybe this
Mm,
might not work. But maybe I just don't know how to explain it well enough to be like, it's not,
right.
or I don't know. So I
No,
kind
that's
of just,
fine. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna learn as you talk to sellers. You'll learn what works and what doesn't. You know, it sounds like you do wholesaling, Joshua.
I still have yet to close on any kind of deal. So I'm trying
But
to,
that's yeah.
yeah, that's where I'm
Well, just so
starting
you
at.
know, like if you actually get a wholesale deal that that does work out, like if you get, I'm sorry, not a wholesale deal, if you get a seller carryback deal that actually does work out, where the numbers work out and you're not wanting to hold on yourself, they're really easy to find a buyer for because there's a lot of buyers out there that would love to have a zero down purchase and they can get the loan and you know you've already negotiated the terms of the note and so for them you know in a lot of cases it's slam dunk as long as the underwriting's there, right? As long as it's going to cash flow enough to cover the debt. A DSCR loan, which is typical for an investor buy and hold, is debt service coverage ratio. You got to be able to cover the debt. And in this case, you not only have to cover the DSCR loan, you have to be able to cover the terms of the note. But as long as the property can produce enough to cover both of those, then turning around and finding a buyer for that shouldn't be too tough. Now, it sounds like in this case, if she doesn't want to be the bank, if she doesn't want to be the lender, she may not be willing. But again, maybe it's just the way it's being explained, like you said. And you know, we're going to be talking about that. Marcel, I think you had something you wanted to share. I'm going to let you jump in.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joshua, the next step for if I were talking, if she was sitting in front of me right now, I'd be like, well, like, what do you mean you don't want to be the lender? Like, literally ask her that question. Can you tell me more about why you don't want to be the lender, or can you explain what you think that looks like? That's a great question. Can you explain to me what that looks like in being the lender? Because you need clarity on just that alone, right? And once you ask her that, she's going to come back to you with, oh, well, I don't know, I heard something that's out there that you can make monthly payments to me. Well, I just don't want that. Well, there you go. We've got our answer, right? She's not open to seller carryback financing. Now, she doesn't know that term, Joshua, and I highly recommend you do not use that term in your first initial conversations with her, because what's going to happen is she's going to get more confused than ever, right? And so we want to really dumb it down. Like I don't know, there's this one series books of like something about like third grade or whatever. This is literally the mentality we want to aim for, right? Like we want to make this so simple. Okay. So when you're talking to her, one of the things you're going to say is, you know, you mentioned last time, Sue, that you don't want to be the lender. Can you tell me more about what you meant by that and find out? Okay. The other thing is, if she's like, well, you know, like, I don't know, I've heard that before, and I don't know, maybe it's called seller financing. If she throws out the term to you, right, Joshua, then you can come back with, oh yeah, you've heard of seller financing? Well, yeah, I mean, who hasn't? Right? Or she might just say something like, well, I think I know what it means. Do you know what it means? Right? And she might come back to you with, do you understand what this means? And so just getting more clarity with what she meant by that. And then also find out, once you understand that, if you still see there's an open door, Josh, then I would just go with, hey, it seems like your home has been sitting on the market a long time. What type of offers have you been getting? Oh, well, my agent's been throwing out a ton of really lowball offers. You mentioned 349 is my asking price. I mean, these knuckleheads are coming in with 275. I'm just using one of Pace's terms. 275, right? Well, 275, that's, I'm never going to sell my house for that. I don't care how long it sits on the market. Well, how long has it been on the market? Looks like from Zillow, it's showing, 180 days. Are you on a certain time frame? And start finding out more, right? And just keep digging and digging. Find out more. Find out what her situation is. You're like, if for those of you who are in sub two, along with me and 90% of us on here, what does Pace do well? What Pace does well is he dives into finding the motivation. What is their real story behind why they want to sell, right, Joshua? So I hope that helps get that conversation started. And of course, I'm happy to jump on a call with you. We can just jump on a call with you. Oh, can you mute Elizabeth, please? Thank you. So Josh, if you need to jump on a call with me, I'm happy to do that. We can even jump on a, just pretend call. We can walk through it. You know what I mean? Just, I want to make sure you're comfortable. But does that help you, Josh, at all?
No, yeah, it does, and I think I did ask that question to her at one
Okay.
point, not in those terms like you had mentioned, but kind of like when I threw it out there. And if I remember correctly, this was like a couple of days ago. I think I spoke with her. I think she
Okay.
did kind of bring up the actual term. Yeah, I think she said seller financing or something like that.
Okay.
But again, like there's certain things in conversations that I don't know how to capitalize on. So if they say something, or if I need to say something at the right time, I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm just learning how to dribble the ball right now. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what to
And
say. So
and
it's kind of
trust
like,
me, I get it, Joshua, because when I started wholesaling, I had no idea what to say, like none. And what I did is, for those of you who know Caroline Kane, I was on her team. And so I was on her team for wholesaling. And so I learned a ton from her, right? A ton from her. And then Jeff Smith, for those of you who know Jeff Smith, he does training on sales and negotiation techniques. So I did a ton of that with him, right? So I could learn how to talk. And so, yeah, Caroline is awesome. She's amazing. And Jeff Smith is amazing. He's got a free school community. You can go in there and learn how to negotiate, how to talk to sellers. So if you don't know who Jeff Smith is, just type it in school, you'll find him. He's there. Okay. He's got a ton of free resources, but I would say, the initial conversation with her, if she mentioned seller financing to you, then I would always put it back in their shoes, if that makes sense, Joshua, and say, well, what do you know about seller financing? Right? What do you understand about seller financing? And let her explain it to you. Right. And then you'll get an idea. Oh, she's right on. She's 100% spot on. And so are you saying you're open to seller financing, or are you saying you're not open to seller? Like, everything sounds so dumb, right? Like, I'm asking like third grade questions, right? You're probably like, duh. But honestly, it's like, you've got to ask those questions, and you've got to get a yes or no from her. Right. And if she's hesitant in any way, if there's any kind of like a gray area, you're like, well, it sounds like you might be open to this. Am I right? Well, I'm not really sure. I think so. I mean, I think I understand it. What do you know about it? Have you heard about it? Right. She might come back to you on that. So,
And the other thing I was going to say, Marcella, had the training, but she also did the reps. She's had hundreds of conversations with agents, with sellers. So yeah, you can't discount that. The reps are so important. The more you do, the better you'll get, for sure. Well, let's thank you. Anything else, Joshua? Is that good for now, or do you have?
no, I
did you?
appreciate you guys. Sorry for taking up so much time on that question.
No.
No, it's fine. That's why we're here, to
Uh-uh.
answer questions. That's great. Yeah. So good. Thank you
And
so much.
and just to help him, Tim, like, what other numbers would you recommend that he ask, in terms of, like, because he's got the mortgage, he's got the asking price. I mean,
Yeah.
I know if you talk to her again, Joshua, you know, and you can get a little more information from her. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you got the numbers you need. It sounds like there's plenty of equity there. The main question is she willing to carry back a portion of her equity? If not, then yeah, next. So that's the main question. I think you've got the numbers you need. It's just a question of whether or not, she's willing to do that. So,
Okay. Well, thank
yep.
you again, and if anybody also needs any boots on the ground in like San Antonio to Austin area, you can reach out to me. Anything, if any property comes through, I'm more than happy to help.
That's great. I appreciate you adding value and offering that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
AJ, thanks, man. What do you got for us?
Well, I got a couple more questions. Hopefully they're quick, and I have to leave soon anyway. The first one is, what if the first lien holder or lender finds out about this double closing, and does that cause a problem, or has that caused a problem before? And the second question is, how much do you charge for down payment loans or EMD loans?
So, okay, yeah, good questions. The first question is, if the lender finds out there's a second position note, what happens? Typically, we try to work with DSCR lenders that we have already closed deals with, so we know that they understand. Again, we're not trying to hide anything. The second position note shouldn't really affect them because they're still getting their payments. They're still in first position. It's not really going to jeopardize anything for them. And so, I mean, think about it like this. If you bought a home and then 6 months later you go and get a HELOC, does the lender say, oh, you can't do that. You can't, take any of your equity out? No, I mean, it's your equity. If you've got equity and you want to dip into that, then there really shouldn't be a problem. So we haven't had a lot of problems with that. So to answer that question, that hasn't really been a problem for us. The other thing is we try to be transparent. We're not trying to do anything sneaky. When you try to mix the two together and you try to put the seller carryback in the first closing, that's when they go, whoa. You can't do that. Okay. That's why we learned to separate it out and have the attorney closing and the title closing be completely separate from each other. So that usually helps solve that problem. The other question about fees, we can send you our fund box, which gives you all the details. We do fund EMD, we do fund double closes, and we do fund the upfront money for the seller carryback. And since we're talking about seller carryback right now, we only charge 2.5% on the amount that we fund. So that includes the down payment and the closing costs. Whatever's on the HUD that the DSCR loan doesn't cover, we cover, right? So whatever that amount is that we're covering, that's what the 2.5% is. Now, in terms of our partners that we work with, we work with Tactical TCs. They are amazing, and we have a couple of them that are literally the front line. They close these things day in, day out. If you haven't done one of these before, even if you have a TC, but I already have a TC, we've heard this, I already have a TC. Great. How many mortgages have they closed? Well, they haven't done one of those yet. This is a whole different animal. This is not your simple move a few things, get a few things signed. There's a lot of moving parts in this. So we always recommend, if it's your first time, you can have your TC maybe be a fly on the wall and watch the process. And then maybe after we've done a couple, then you could have your TC do it. But we always recommend, if it's your first one, let our team take the reins and really help to guide this process so that it can be successful, because there is a lot that goes on with this. The other big piece with using our TCs is they're not just moving paperwork. They are compliance. They're a compliance team. They're going to make sure everything's in compliance. We recently had a borrower who was trying to do some different ways to make this work, and they were like, yeah, no, we can't do that. That's mortgage fraud. That won't work. It was okay. It wasn't like they were trying to do something wrong. They just didn't know because it's their first one. And our team's like, no, we can't structure it that way because this is going to be a problem. And we don't want, lawsuits down the road. We don't want you to deal with things down the road, which is part of what we're going to talk about next week, but I'm just letting you know. So what our TCs charge, which is I think a fair rate, is 2,500. 1,400 of that is upfront non-refundable because they're going to do the work whether the deal closes or not. So we charge the TCs charge 1,400 upfront non-refundable, and the remaining of the 2,500, the other 1,100 gets charged at the close with the attorney. It comes out at the close of the attorney. So that, that's what we charge in terms of fees. The attorney's going to charge whatever the attorney's going to charge. From what I've seen, it's about $900 for him to do the note and file that and take care of that part of the puzzle. It could vary depending on how complicated it is, but that's what we've been seeing on the HUDs, that the attorney gets about that much. And again, our fee is only 2.5%. So, and I've been told by other people, you're only charging 2.5%. That is ridiculously low. Most people for these mortgages, if you're funding up front, they charge a lot more than that. So I think we're one of the lowest in terms of the fee that we charge for funding these. Does that hit it, AJ? Did I hit all your?
Yes, it sounds like you're start to finish. I mean, I can just bring you LOI and a PSA, and you like all the way through.
And not even the PSA. I'm glad you brought that up. You don't need that yet. You start with the LOI, because if you start with the PSA, you might have to redo it. Our team will actually even help you to make sure that the PSA is going to be the way it needs to be so that everything can work, like clockwork. Yeah, and I'm going to show you guys, I think, yeah, we have time. I want to show you what we have, which is all the tools you need. You don't even need to come up with, for, I don't know, we've been doing this for a while, and for months, people were like, I don't know how to do an LOI. Like, what do I do to get an LOI? Like, you guys have one I can use? And we made some generic ones that worked, temporarily. But now we have one that's built into the calculator where you put the numbers in the calculator and it spits out the LOI for you with just the basics, just what we need. And then from there, you can take that, get it signed, submit that with your request for funding. And then, like you said, start to finish. So really from calculator to LOI to submission, and from that to close, our team can help you. Now, does that mean that you don't have any responsibility? No, there's a lot of work to be done on the buyer's end, which includes securing the loan, right? Negotiating with the seller the terms of the note. We don't do negotiation. We don't find your lender. We don't qualify the loan. That's not our job. That's your job. But if you do all those parts, we'll take care of all the back end stuff. Does that
But
make
you
sense?
said you work with DSCR lenders that are preferred, so to speak.
Yeah. So we have a couple that we work with personally that we can get you started with. And then once if those are going to click for you, great. We can get things moving even quicker. If they can't do the particular, deal that you're looking at, once you enlist the help of the TC team that we have, that 1,400 non-refundable, they have a list of about 10 that we have closed deals with, that then you can start calling those. And it's brokers. You're really working with brokers. It's kind of nice, actually. If you get 10 brokers, you've got 100 lenders. And so you should be able to find somebody, as long as you qualify, that could help you get the loan you want. So that's the preferred lender list that we give to clients who are signing up for the services with the TC. But up front, we can start you off with a couple people just so you can kind of get a rough idea of, hey, is this thing going to work or not? And then, that way you don't have to pay the fee just to find out, oh yeah, okay, I don't qualify. Did you have something to add, Marcel?
I was going to say to AJ, the reason for that LOI is there are times where you will go back and renegotiate with the seller. And so it's just a very simple change on our website, which we're going to show you. And so you can quickly modify that LOI on our website and then send it back over to that seller for another signature, right? And that's the whole purpose, rather than doing an entire PSA of, like in Texas, it's like, I don't know, 100 pages. I don't know if you've ever seen a Texas track, but it's insane. Their PSAs go on forever. I mean, honestly, I think one time, I counted like 45 to 50 pages on a track. contract. So yeah, don't move to Texas, stay wherever you are. That's my plug-in. But also I was going to say, Tim, when you go to our website just now, if you can plug in Joshua's numbers so we can see that and work with the deal that he's got going, with whatever numbers we might have, just to plug in and see if that would work, just to demonstrate the LOI experience. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, the LOI is a non-binding agreement, so that way it is very easy to negotiate and change those numbers until you get it fine-tuned the right way. So it's going to win for everybody. Once you sign a purchase and sale agreement, you're kind of locked in. So that's why we say, hold off on the PSA, get the LOI signed, start with that, and then we can work from there and we can get things dialed in. So I might have time to throw Joshua's numbers in, but I did want to show them the cash flow part because we haven't shown that yet. And I've already got those numbers put in, so I don't want to start over at this point. But let me go ahead and share that right now. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat or hold off until I'm done showing this, and then we can get back to your questions. So let me go here. I'm going to get out of this. And we're going to go to our website. I just want to show you guys, this is our website, fundstoclose.net. And so you can go here. If you click apply for transaction funding, it's going to bring you right to our funding page, which looks like this. And then once you're on the funding page, this is what it looks like when you first, I'll show you what it looks like. Here we go. This is what it looks like when you first get in here, okay? And it does give some basic information about these. So if you want to just look at the basics, here's the basics for you, submit request for funding. But what we really want you to do is click on deal calculator here. Also, you can notice here live deal activity. So just today, our team has had requests for EMD, double closes. Here's a stack method for 349,850, another stack method for 350. Here's a stack method for 1.3 million. So again, our team is doing a lot of deals. We have a lot of volume. So that's good for you because that means we're dialed in. We know what we're doing. I want to show you this one here, though. This is when you click on the deal calculator. Okay, well, let me do this. Deal calculator. It's going to come up with this. Okay, I can load example deal, but what I'm going to do is I've already got some numbers put in to save some time, and I'll just walk you through those numbers. So the deal, let's see here. So you're going to put in the purchase price. In this case, it was $399. The DSCR, LTV, loan to value, we're going to say 75%. The seller was willing to carry back 130K and the seller had 200K in equity. So plenty of room for them to carry back what they were going to. We just estimate the closing costs at 3%. You can, if you know what that actually is with your title company, you can put those in. There was no real estate agent and there was no wholesaler, so we didn't have those fees. And then the transaction coordination fee, we talked about that earlier. Thank you, AJ, for asking that question. Here's that $2,500. So the DSCR loan amount would be just under 300K. The down payment would just be under 100K. The seller carry is, like we said, 130, and the seller equity, so they have 70,000 remaining. So then when you just put in those basic numbers, you're going to come down here and you're going to see how much you're going to have to pay out of pocket. Zero out of pocket. And in this case, this person's actually going to put almost 13,000 in their pocket on that second close with the attorney. That money comes back to the buyer. Okay. Transactional funding needed. Now, this is a really important number down here. A lot of people, when they go to submit their deal, they put in the purchase price, or they put in the DSCR loan, or they put in the seller carry amount. None of those are correct. When it asks you for the amount of transactional funding you need, it's right here. This is all these numbers mixed together. And if it isn't exactly right, that's okay. We can adjust that, okay? So this is a starting point for you to submit your deal. But in order to submit your deal, you also need an LOI, right? So that's when we go to the generate LOI. So in this case, what you're going to do is you're going to put in the basic information here. Okay, and you're going to put in, did I get enough numbers there? Maybe one more. And then you're going to put in buyer's name, seller's name, property address. Now this is where you can put in the seller carry interest rate, whatever you negotiated with the seller. Let's say in this case, it's not 5, let's say it's 8%. And typical is a 30-year amortization and typical is a 5-year balloon. And then any additional terms that you have down here. And then you just click download LOI as a PDF. And it is that easy to create an LOI. Here's your letter of intent, date, parties, address, the proposed terms. This letter of intent is non-binding and intended to outline the proposed terms of the purchase of the property. This LOI does not constitute a legal binding agreement. A formal purchase agreement will be drafted upon mutual acceptance of these terms. And then you just put it in your, DocuSign or whatever you use, send it over, you sign it, they sign it, and that is what you need. That's all you need to submit your request for funding right here with this total as what you're wanting to borrow. Now, the thing I wanted to show you guys, I've showed that before. We love that. That LOI generator is so slick. But what I want to show you is the cash flow analysis. We have not shown this yet on our Buying Zero Down Zoom. This is super cool. What you can do is put in the DSCR loan terms, let's say 9%. That could be higher, could be 10, could be 11. The loan term, 30 years. The seller carry terms that we just talked about, 8%, 30, and 5. The expected monthly rent. So if you know what you're going to be able to get on a monthly rent, you could put that there. Monthly property taxes, monthly insurance, property management fee. If you have a property management company, maybe they charge, I don't know, 15%. I'm not sure what they charge, depends on what it is. So this throws in all these numbers. And again, is this a detailed underwriting? No. I would do a much more detailed one if you're going to do it. But this gives you a rough idea, a rough underwriting of is this going to cash flow or not. So here's your DSCR loan. Here's your seller carry payment, taxes, insurance, property management, total expenses, $5,060, expected rental income, $5,100, positive cash flow, $40. Well, who's going to do all this work for $40? Well, here's the thing. Not every buyer is buying for cash flow. We have a buyer right now who's been on these Zooms with us. He's looking at properties right now, and he's really just looking to break even because he's looking to buy and hold and get the appreciation over time. He's going to pay a management company to take care of it for him so he doesn't have to be the landlord, and he just wants to build up a portfolio so that he can have the appreciation, and 5 years down the road, he refinances, keeps it, sells it, whatever. That's his strategy. So this tells you what the DSCR lender is going to look at, which is what's the rent divided by the PITIA, and it's 1.53, which passes the 1.25. They're looking for at least a 1.25 on the DSCR, the debt service coverage ratio. So as long as the ratio is above 1.25, they're probably going to say, okay, we can do this loan. Now, after going through all that, I got to ask AJ, does this sound good for a rough estimate?
It does sound good. But here's the thing though, I mean, you have positive cash flow and the DSCR is 1.53, so it's not taking into account the seller carry stack on it. Is what I'm noticing.
Actually, the seller carries right here. The terms of the note were 8% for 30 years at 130K. So that's your monthly payment on that's $954. So that's in there. It's in the mix.
Okay, so yeah, I'm just wondering why he's got only $40 coming in, but
well, I think it's because the number, again, I just threw these numbers in here. I looked up, I said, okay, what's the monthly property taxes on a property that costs, $400,000 in Texas, and it said about 733. And I didn't know what the monthly insurance was, so I just threw in 200. And I didn't know what his property management company charges, so I just said 15. And so the reason why it says that is because I basically increased the monthly rent until I could get a positive cash flow. This is what we'd have to rent it for to come out even. Now, if you can rent it for 6,000, I don't know. I don't know what you can rent a property for in Texas for, but if you can rent it for 6,000, now you can make 800 a month. So really, there's so many variables in here, and one of the biggest ones is, what can you rent it for? If you can rent it for more, you can make money. I was just trying to figure out what's the minimum he has to bring in because his goal again is not to cash flow as much as it is to buy and hold. So for him, the minimum was, I got to at least make this much to be able to cover everything. But yeah, you're right. If you're looking for cash flow, then you're either going to have to lower these numbers, lower the interest rate that the seller carry terms has, or increase the amount of rent that you're charging, right? So anyway, I just thought this, was something that we needed to show you guys, that there's this as well, that we have this cash flow analysis in addition to the deal analysis, in addition to the LOI generator. All of this is built right into the deal calculator on our funding website, which is fund.fundstoclose.net. And so, yeah, if you guys want to use that to just, and again, the great thing is Marcel already said this. If you do an LOI and then you talk to your seller and they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna go for that. I want 8.5%. You just go right back in here. You change this to an 8.5. You download the PDF and you got the new LOI just like that. You send that one over, they sign it, and you're rocking and rolling. So that's basically how that works. And I hope that is helpful to you guys. That's a free tool we make available to any of our borrowers, and wanted to show that to you. Well, hey, we're coming up on the hour here. I just want to see if anybody else has any questions before we call it a night, but this has been great.
Lots of great information. I was just going to say to Joshua, don't hesitate to reach out whenever you do talk to that seller. Let us know how that's going and how we can help. Okay. We're here for you. And Karina, good to see you too. Yeah, there's a lot to learn in this process, right? It can feel overwhelming at times. But just keep in mind that it's like anything else that's newer to you, like a newer concept, just breaking it down into chunks and then come in with questions. One thing I can tell you about our team is we are constantly asking questions. So I'm going to challenge every one of you here to come with a new question every time you jump on our Zoom. And Karina's laughing because that is what we aspire to on our team. We literally try to come with one new question that we don't understand about the process. And literally there are times where we're like, what? And it just, we had the most complex deal ever. It was layers and layers and layers of complexity with a Morby, okay, with a seller carryback. And Tim and I, every single time we were like, we need to wrap our heads around this. Hold on, wait. And so we came to the table to our team with a question quite often through this process because it was just layers deep. Okay. And so I'm just being fully transparent here. Do we know everything an attorney knows about seller carryback? Absolutely not. We're not attorneys, right? So just know that it does take time to understand the process and to walk through it. And we'll share that story with you another time because literally it just went from one like tornado to another tornado kind of thing. And we were just putting out constant buyers, constant. And that did not go through because the seller was not fully transparent with our borrower. And so he ended up finding out so many other tax liens and you name it that he never told him about. Anyway, so what does Pace say? Right? What does he say? I think my husband said it to me the other day, right?
Buyers are liars.
And
sellers are
worse. They're
That's
always
right.
going to be worse. That's just the way it is. And so, like in talking with Joshua, it just kind of reminded me of all that training I had because you just got to keep digging. You think you know the story, but really what they're telling you is just surface level. 100% surface level. You're welcome, Bobby. Thanks for coming in. So good to see you. So just know, like, even what they share with you may or may not be 100% true. And so if you have that gut feeling, like Karina's kind of saying, because she knows she talks to a lot of sellers too. Like if you have that gut feeling, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm missing something. What am I missing? Go with that gut. There's something else, there's another puzzle right, piece missing. And so just keep digging and don't be afraid to ask. So anyway, my challenge is come next week with one question. Something that maybe you go back and you watch this Zoom again and you because you're all going to get the automatic replay. It's going to come right to you. We do that for you. So you can go back, watch it, listen to it again, speed him up on the parts you want to speed him up to. Okay. And then just come back with like, I didn't get that part. Right. And be fully transparent. Like raise your hand and don't be afraid. Nobody's here to go, well, Karina obviously doesn't know what she's talking about, or right. I mean, we're not here to judge you. We're here to help. And so we want you to ask questions. Right. And the only way you learn, the way I'm learning, the way my husband is learning, the way our team learns together is we come to the table with questions. Okay. So make sure you do that. Push yourself to do that. And that's all I'm going to say. Have a great night.
And I just wanted to add that, every deal is different, and we're definitely seeing that every single deal is different. There's always different twists and turns. And so we're learning every single deal we do, every single deal that our team does. That's why their experience of closing over 100 of these is so valuable, because they've seen so many different scenarios, but yet there's more. So that's one of the things that's fun about these buying zero down scenarios, the Morgan method, stack method, whatever you want to call it, is it's always something new. There's always something to learn, and there's usually a way to get it done as long as the seller's being honest. So that's about all we have for now. Any last minute questions that anybody has right now? If not, then we just want to say thank you. We look forward to seeing you again next Wednesday, 4:30 Pacific time, and we will be going over a few more of the challenges and solutions. And then hopefully the week after that, Marcella can share a little bit more about how to have those conversations. She got a good bit of that in tonight. Good job.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right,
Thank you.
guys, we appreciate you. Have a good rest of your night, and we will see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.